regarding 29, the county administration and our administration. If you could maybe just give us a brief general outline of the kind of discussions you've had.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, if memory serves, we started negotiating a new IGA with the county in about October of last year. I think the county was under different county manager leadership at that time. I won't speak on their behalf, but we were unable to reach an agreement. And so the city gave notice in February, this is from memory, giving them the 6-month notice as required within the agreement. And so that notice was served by Public Safety Director Darren White to the county manager.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My biggest concern, I know it's in the agreement, but when this was passed 10 years ago, the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Government Commission discussed the issue. It went to the respective bodies, the Bernalillo County Commission and the Albuquerque City Council, to vote on this issue. This had an impact on both the city budget, it had an impact on the county budget, and more importantly, it's going to have an impact on the residents. And all I've been advocating for is that the residents are involved and know what's going on. But it's, I think, important that this body, along with the City Council and the County Commission, is also notified ahead of time, because it will have an impact on Bernalillo County's budget. And I'm not sure if the county has the resources. I know the city is in a tight financial bind at this time. But again, we need to continue to communicate with one another on an issue of this importance. I mean, the residents of this community don't care if it's a county truck or a city truck. When they call 911, they just want an immediate response to that call. And I think that's the most important thing. And if we can assure those residents that that is going to take place, and again, not a single meeting has taken place in the community. I'm not sure when or what times you've got set up for those meetings, but it's got to be fairly quickly, because we're moving forward with our process.
Commissioner De La Cruz.
Thank you, Councilor, for those comments. And it is a little bit troublesome that there's been dialogue at the staff level, and that's fine. But we are fast approaching the fiscal year, and this has not been significantly discussed at the elected official level on either side, whether city, county. And I think that's somewhat troublesome. I think we're doing our part to try to communicate with each other, but I really didn't know anything about 29 until real recently when I was meeting with some of our represented folks. And so it is a little bit troubling. And I think this is something that we have to look at very concretely, and we have to know what the implications are financially. Because right now, if the county reopens 29 or 9 as a county station, that we can staff it and make sure that the equipment's there and whatever's necessary to make it happen. And so it is concerning. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Zdenek, could you tell us a little bit, have we taken into account the new staffing requirements at the county level?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to correct. I did not receive a formal copy of the IGA. I got an electronic email informing me that the IGA was being terminated. So I need to clear that up with you. And I apologize. My assumption is there was a mutual awareness amongst everybody. But having said that, we have an expansion request from the chief that we're currently working through, which would require, as Commissioner De La Cruz mentioned, somewhat over $2 million. I'm not quite convinced that that's, we're not in total agreement on that number. As we go through the process of examining his request and making sure that we don't compromise the safety of the community, we'll be working through that, bringing back to the Commission, quite frankly, those final recommendations for expansion items.
Thank you, Mr. Zdenek. I want to make sure that people understand something very, very clearly. The response that you get from a county fire station will be of equal value and service and quality as that of a city. And the impact will be more of a fiscal impact on the county as opposed to the county residents whose services should remain very much the same. We do things a little differently, but we do it well, just as AFD does. And I want to commend all the firefighters on both sides from the city and county because they do an excellent job. I've seen them in action. And I want to reassure residents of that. Chief, do you have anything
Well,
else?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that's exactly what I wanted to say, is that the presentation or the expansion budget that we presented to management is to ensure that exact quote, is that we do exactly what we do anywhere else in Bernalillo County, provide the best service we can. And so what we're doing is ensuring that with the package that we have that will be presented to the commission. So our firefighters and AFD firefighters are equal. The training and how we do things out in the field are the same. So when it doesn't matter if I'm calling from the county or from the city, the services you're going to receive are going to be just as efficient on both sides.
Thank you, Mr. Swistak. You've been working your way up here. Imagine you might have some thoughts on this.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner De La Cruz, since I'm sitting in this seat, I'll take the ownership. We did receive a official letter from the city indicating their termination of that respective station. We've been working to try to figure out with the chief on how that transition would occur in light of the fact that I didn't believe we had an obligation, that we didn't have any recourse to kind of continue that partnership with the city. There was a 6-month termination agreement. We've started to put together a budget that would at least man that station or staff that station so that the equality of both the city and the county were the same. The residents would not see a difference in that. And so the official letter was sent, so since I'm in the seat now, I'll take ownership of not getting that disseminated, at least to the commission that I'm aware of. I didn't know anything about the city council.
Councilor Sanchez.
Thank you. I have one statement that was made at the Committee of the Whole meeting, in that the savings to the city of Albuquerque was going to be approximately $660,000 per year. Some of the councilors have questioned that methodology and the savings to the city. And one of the other questions that I had, and I think Mr. Adencon brought this up during his public comments regarding dispatch, and you probably can answer that question, Chief Garcia, because you will be taking over that station, there's going to also be more required dispatch for that particular station. Do you have the personnel ready to disseminate to make sure that the dispatch will be ready to accommodate the calls for that particular station?
Mr. Chair, Councilor Sanchez, yes, we do. Actually, the amount of calls that we're going to be dealing with Station 29 or County 9 would be less than I think most people are realizing. So we have the ability right now with our dispatch center the way it is, and also dealing with mutual aid agreement. This is one of those areas that does have the in and out city and county jurisdiction. So when we finalize this is going to be one of those areas that it may be city and county responding in that core. So yes, we can manage it with the proposal that will be before the commission with the staffing. The citizens won't even notice that, or even notice that somebody else has moved into that station. Our whole idea is to make sure that this is seamless, that when we move in, that it's basically just another day.
And if that's the case, then I think we should start looking at a metro fire department where things should be seamless, where we're not dealing with jurisdictional lines. When it comes to public safety, there should be no boundaries.
Commissioner De La Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have no doubt that either agency responding is going to do a competent job. My concern is that we are where we are financially. This country and this state and this county and this city are facing a reality financially. And the citizen absolutely doesn't care if the truck is red or green. But they do care that a truck shows up. And that's why I want to make sure that we can afford to do the right thing at Station 29, formerly 9. And so we have to look at these economics. The County Commission is the only group